Welcome to Health Oddity, the show that strips away the jargon and hype surrounding all things health and fitness to help you live a long, strong and energetic life. Lining up at the bar this week, here's Peter Lant, Paul Bassett and James St. Pierre.
Hello and welcome to the Health Oddity podcast, episode 58. So we are well into our second year of podcasting every single week for over the last year. And we continue today with drawing on and bringing in some absolutely fantastic guests from all around the world to help you with your own training, your lifestyle, your longevity, your outlook around health and fitness and movement. And today we have a real cracking guest joining us all the way from Italy, who I will introduce in a second. But first of all, I will welcome the usual suspects, the usual hosts. Mr. Peter Lant, how are you doing?
I'm all right. How are you?
I am exceptionally good today. The home office has started construction, so I will soon have a podcast hub.
Blimey. I'm sitting at my dining room table as normal and as I will be forever. Home office.
Well, I've got this crane attached to my dining table, and the wife wants me to move it outside, so I'm building a home for the crane and other things. So that is good. Mr. Paul Bassett in London, how are you doing?
Okay. I when you said home office, I thought you meant something to do with the government. I thought what are you working on? HS2?
Brilliant. And we have joining us, I think he is approximately, from our conversations a few weeks back, I think he is approximately half an hour from Venice in Italy. Mr. Fabio Zonin, how are you doing?
Doing great. So excited about being on your podcast, gents. And I was listening to your talks about the home studio. So you see, I got very professional corner, not studio, because if I just, turn my computer, you'll see it's a complete mess. That's the only tidy part of the studio. And you might have, see my dog pressing behind me and stuff like that. My studio, my gym are home. So part of the home is devoted to that. But I have a professional corner. Just the corner, like when you watch, sitcoms or movies or stuff like that, it looks all great. But if you are behind the scenes, you see that's only that. The rest is cardboard. So everything is fake. Books are fake. There's someone behind holding the library.
I've got, don't worry, I've got exactly that. The dog's asleep on the sofa, all behind here. There's a bunch of kettlebells down there with some weights gaffer taped to them. There's some Indian clubs and Persian meals and everything. It's a mess. It's an absolute mess.
You are wearing your trousers.
So
I'm actually wearing shorts. So if I stood up, it would look like the proverbial newsreader.
So you don't want me to stand up, right?
Because if you stand up, Fabio, would we see a unicorn?
Yes.
That's not a euphemism.
You should explain what that is about, because people.
Fabio's got a unicorn.
We'll leave that, Pete. We'll leave that as an open loop, and we'll close that at the end, so people will have to stay till the end to learn about.
Post a photo of the unicorn.
Yeah, exactly. We'll explain what Fabio's unicorn is.
So just very briefly, Fabio was he was the master instructor. He's a master instructor with Strongfirst and helps Strongfirst with special projects. He's in his 50s himself now. He's been around training for a long time. And in a second, I'll ask Fabio to kind of tell us a bit about his training history and his background and kind of how he's got to where he is now. But Fabio was the very first master instructor on the first I did certification, kettlebell certification back in, I think, about 2014. Pete and I were very lucky to spend a weekend with him a couple of weekends ago at the Strongfirst SFB that we hosted at Unique Results, and I'm going to see Fabio next weekend again at the SFG up in Lilleshall. So we spent a lot of time with Fabio. He's an absolutely fantastic guy, a wealth of knowledge, very funny, very warm, very generous with his time, and it's an honor to have him with us today. So Fabio, do you just want to start by, because there's quite a lot of people, we have listeners, lots of our listeners are kind of 30 plus, 40 plus, 50 plus. Some are obviously involved in the fitness industry and the strength industry. Some are, just kind of regular people who are kind of enthusiasts and people who are trying to live a long, strong and energetic life. Can you just tell us a little bit about kind of yourself, how you got involved in training, your training history and background, and kind of how you've got to where you are today?
This may be very interesting because, I was, when I was young, when I was a kid, I was not exactly a guy who was involved in sports. Actually, I know I don't look like it, but I was a nerd. I was in the best in my class in maths and science, and the worst in physical education or sports, really the worst. And I was overweight also. I was overweight. I mean, I did some karate when I was a kid, but then I think that from my 8 years old until probably my 13, I did pretty much nothing. So I was very much passionate about, science, maths, and, electronics and all that stuff. And sports and TV, of course, lots of TV, plenty of TV. And so sports were not down my alley. And I was definitely overweight until I discovered something which gathered my interest, my total interest, which was ladies. At that age, you start being interested in that. And I realized that being a nerd overweight, the fat version of Sheldon of the Big Bang Theory, was not helping in getting in touch with the opposite sex. So I wanted to lose weight. And initially it was just, about started walking and dieting with no idea what was supposed for me. That being on a diet was just try not to eat. But it did work. I lost weight and so on. But then I was skinny at one point and I was weak. And I, for some reason in Venice during Carnival, I was involved into argue and fight between young people my age, young guys, young teenagers. And I got beat up really hard. So I decided I'm going to go to the gym and become strong. So that's the story. And I was 13 when I entered it was at the time was a weightlifting and powerlifting gym. So I went there and I had no idea, no clue. And at the time, right now, people who get into the fitness industry are kind of lucky because there is knowledge. At the time, there was no internet. There was no knowledge. There were probably 3 books about physical preparation in Italy, about weights at least. And some people would come back from the US with some, magazines and stuff where you would see Franco Columbo, Arnold at the time, guys like that. And so everything was like word of mouth. So I recall that I went to this gym, I registered, and the owner asked me, okay, so what do you want to do? Well, I like to bulk up, build some muscles, get stronger. And he goes like, are you interested in legs, training your legs? I said, no, I just want to build big chest and big guns. And he goes like, okay, so you're a bodybuilder. So let me there. And I remember, it was a very old gym. Benches were wooden with no cushion, no nothing. And he told me, okay, that thing is called bench press. You do 5 sets of 10. Then he goes, that one is, see that par, you pull yourself up for 10 times if you can. If you can't, you didn't have a machine. They had a pulley attached on the roof with a basically a container. You just throw the plates there, sat on the floor, and just pull it down. So you do your pulls there, and then you take 2 of those dumbbells and you do 5 sets of 10 lateral raises, plus you do curls, and then you lie down and you do your triceps. And then if you want, see the bench there, incline, you do abs there. That's it. He never spoke to me since then. That's all I did.
So he literally didn't give you any leg exercises because
not at all. No, because I said I was not interested, right? And so I didn't work my legs for quite some time. So I went to that gym and I was just copying and looking around, see what other people were doing. But many of them were weightlifters, and some of them were bodybuilders. And 2 different, communities didn't speak to each other. Like when they're in those countries where, people don't get along with each other, like different communities, and they stay separate, and they don't speak to each other, and they don't appreciate each other. So I went there for a few months, and then I went to a gym. I went to another weightlifting gym where I found a good coach. Well, for the time, it was a good coach because he was telling you what to do at least. And he said, well, you're strong, you know. I was strong in the bench press. So he convinced me to do like inner bench press competition. And I did well. So he said, you got to do powerlifting. I said, good. So what am I supposed to do? Well, you just do squats, deadlifts, and bench. I said, good. So how am I supposed to squat? He says, well, you put the bar on your shoulders, you just squat down, come back up. I said, okay, but how about the stance? How should I put my feet? Oh, you put the bar on your shoulders, you go down and squat down, come back up. So yeah, but where should I put the bar, position, and the grip, and height? Put the bar on your shoulders, squat down, come back up. But how do I know if I'm doing it right? And he goes, if you're able to come back up, you're good. This was pretty much the technical clues you got. So to make a long story short, I think it was 1983, and I was 13 years old. And at 15, I did my first powerlifting competition. So that was probably 1984. I'm from 69, so 1984. I did the competition, and I got third in the Northern Italy Championship because I was strong in the bench press. I was like 58, 60 kilos, and I think I benched 115 kilos, squatted 130, deadlifted something like that. I still have some photos of that. And so I was good. I said, oh, this is a promising powerlifting. But within 2 years, I think it's 17, I herniated a disc. Guess why? I would put the bar on my shoulder, squat down, come back up, right? With no idea what I was doing. None of us had any idea. So I did this powerlifting, and I also competed in natural bodybuilding in my 16s for the first time. And after I herniated my disc, it was a protrusion, nothing serious, but still, you're not even 18, you got a disc hernia. You know what? Probably stop that. So my mom told me, you cannot do powerlifting anymore, only bodybuilding, that's better for you. So I competed, I trained and competed in natural bodybuilding for many years. But I always loved the approach of powerlifting. I did not like machines. I used to like, the squat, the deadlift, and the bench, pull-ups and all that stuff. So it was kind of a power bodybuilding. But I competed until, probably 1994. The interesting part was that I was still a nerd. So I was studying to become an electronic engineer I finished my high school, went to university, and that was what I was supposed to do. And I had two passions. So, training and electronics and math and all that stuff. And at one point, I thought, I don't want to be sitting on a desk all my life. I want to work into sports. I got some mentors who got me some first jobs into the industry. And so I simply gave up. I gave up university, and I started studying pharmacy. And then I started, I opened my own gym, and story started there. And then for some reason I was seen, and I was hired by the Italian Federation of Fitness before as an assistant, and then as a teacher. So I started teaching on certifications to become personal trainer, bodybuilding instructor and stuff like that. And I did that from 1994 until 2012. I worked for this federation. And interesting part is that I thought I was good at what I was doing. I mean, I wrote manuals for them. I wrote a couple of books. I did some stuff, and I was in their advisory board. So I was successful in the industry here in Italy. But there was a lot missing. I was realizing that we were, drinking from the same fountain all the time. I don't know if this works in English. It's the way we would say it in Italy, which means that we had all the congresses, all the conferences, all with the same speakers, always saying the same things. Sometimes we ended up, being presenters at some congresses, and just switching the titles between one and the other, and just passing along the presentations. So we would basically say the same thing. So there was nothing new coming out and not new information. And what I thought there was something wrong in what we were doing, I didn't get what, right? And so I was not satisfied. And the other thing I was not satisfied about, and I'm saying this with all the respect. I mean, I'm still good friends with the chairman of the federation. We're still, in good relationships, and all my colleagues, but we were not too much concerned about quality as much as we were about selling spots at certifications and or doing it, and also we could not, like, for instance, you cannot fail more than 10%. Well, actually, I believe that someone who comes out certified and has to take care of people's health should know, should not pass because he paid, should pass because he deserves it. And I mean, my take is that if I certify someone to be a fitness coach or a strength coach or whatever, it should answer yes to this question. Would I feel confident in allowing this person to train my mother, my father, or my daughter? If the answer is yes, that's good. If the answer is no, this person shouldn't have a diploma in any sense. So at the end, I was conscious there was something missing. I didn't have enough information. So I started, looking around, and I got, by pure chance, I got in my hands, which I ignored for some time, I got Pavel's Russian Kettlebell Challenge book. And at the beginning, I didn't look at that book that much because, well, there was this, guy with a naked torso with this big bell on his shoulders, and he wasn't, big bodybuilder. So I kept it in the drawer for a while until I got another book, which was Beyond Bodybuilding by Pavel. Beyond Bodybuilding has, the first version didn't have photos on the cover. It was a black cover. And I did not initially realize it was the same Pavel. I just read Beyond Bodybuilding, Bodybuilding Muscles. Okay, I like this. So I read this book and I was amazed, because my thought was, this guy is telling that is right. He's telling the exact opposite of what we've been doing for years. However, it makes completely sense. So I started exploring and testing some of what I read in that book with great results. And at one point, it turned out that Pavel was coming to Italy for a seminar. And I didn't know the guy, so I just registered and went there. And I went there, with I didn't have glasses there, but it makes the idea. At the time, I didn't wear glasses. With my glasses, my notebook, and not a computer at the time, notebook, paper notebook, my pen, ready to take notes. I said, we'll sit, we'll get a great presentation there, PowerPoint, he will speak about stuff. He literally killed us for 2 days. It was, all practice, all, putting the work into place, all hands on. And I was blown. I was blown because well, he taught, and this is the, it's up there. I don't know if you see it. That day, up there, that diploma there was the very first time. So I met the guy, but what interested me is that he taught some kettlebells, some barbells, some body weight. So he covered the swing. For me, it was completely new. And so no surprise that it was completely new. But when he went to barbell and he covered the squat, the bench, I recall, squat, bench, and pull-ups, that was down my alley. So for me, it was like, yeah, I know this shit, I know it, no problem. He gave some clues, some details, some stuff that I was blown. I said, how can it be that I've been for more than 20 years in the industry and I didn't know anything about this? And I had some problems in my shoulder. I couldn't bench at the time, but the way he taught it, I could bench. And a couple of months. So after that seminar, for a couple of months, all my PRs went down because I had to rebuild the technique. But then I overcome all of them. I mean, I put 20 kilos more on my squat. I put more than 10 kilos on my bench within 2 months and no more pain. So I was blown. And also, body weight training, we covered the pistol and, hardstyle push-ups and stuff like that. It was completely new information. So what I did, I registered to everything I could register. I went that same year, I registered for the RKC in Hungary. We didn't have anything like that in Italy at the time. It was only Hungary and Denmark in Europe. I got RKC certified, and then I flew to Minnesota. I went to take some bodyweight seminar. I went to take the FMS, CKFMS at the time, and I started going to seminars and stuff, and so that was great. But the story was that I didn't mean that to become part of my career. In my plan, I was going to keep teaching for the Italian Federation of Fitness and explore kettlebells, and barbells in a certain way, just for myself, for my own amusement and interest. But what happened at the time that was interesting, since when I trained for my RKC, I had no idea what I was supposed to do. And so I looked at the website. There was no instructors, no one who could coach you. So I studied on YouTube University to get ready for this. And you know what you find on YouTube. Imagine in 2008, 2009, right? Worse, about kettlebells especially. And I didn't know we were going to use doubles, but my take was, I knew we were going to use the 24 kilo belt. So I did buy a 16 and a 24, but I bought a 32. And I said, I'm going to train with a 32. So I'll be ready with a 32 when I do to my RKC. Everything's going to be easy for me. Except that my clean was a curl.
Yeah.
So I tore my bicep, 5 centimeters tore. You can still see the hole here. See?
Yeah.
The week before my RKC. And I went there and I couldn't do the snatch test. At the time, the snatch test was the very first thing you would do. You would show up there and they would test you. And so Pavel himself, he said, you're not doing it. And I wanted to go home. I was so upset. I said, no, I want to do this. And so he took me apart and said, listen, you're an athlete. As an athlete, I'm sure you did enough stupid things in your life. I'm not allowing you to do one more. So here's the deal, he said. You take the course, forget about the snatch test. So if you don't get injured and you'll enjoy the course. If you get injured during the snatch test, you're done. Sunday morning before breakfast at 6:50 a.m., you're going to do your snatch test. Okay, deal. So I stayed there, right? And 6:30 in the morning, 6:50 in the morning on Sunday, I did my snatch test with one arm because I couldn't use this one. I was 92 kilos at the time, and it was by the weight. So as many reps are to your body weight in kilos. So I had to do 92 snatches, but I did it with one arm. And Jeff Newport was there and he noticed me. So I think that was the point in which they remembered my name. And for some reason, without doing anything, I found myself more involved more and more. Like got the email, what do you think about this? Would you like to? And so at the end, they gave me the license for the RKC in Italy. And they started involving me as an assistant first, and then they promoted me team leader, and everything started from there. Mm-hmm. So I said goodbye to the Italian Federation of Fitness, and that's how I turned out to be here. So it was not planned at all. I didn't run for it. It simply happened, several circumstances, and I couldn't be as happy because here's the final result. At 39 years old, almost 40 when I did my RKC. As a former powerlifter and bodybuilder, I was completely jacked up, couldn't move. I was in constant pain. I was big, huge, and strong, but I couldn't do a toe touch. If I was caught from behind, I had to turn, I would turn the entire body because I couldn't turn my neck. And I was not healthy. My blood pressure was kind of high, And I mean, I'm at 52 now. I cannot say I'm the most mobile person in the world. Probably the opposite, but I move much better and I'm much less in pain than I was 12 years ago, 13 years ago, when I was, in my early 40s or even before 40s. And you see in the body weight, people are surprised because I'm pretty, short and thick dude. And people say, he can never do an handstand. But I do it. I do that stuff. So, and it's incredible. And trust me, when I was 20, I wouldn't be able to do anything like that. Mm-hmm. So not only my strength, but also my body control, my mobility, my coordination, and my health are better now than when I was younger. So that's why I told this story, because I think that this is what your listeners are looking for, aging and being healthy and keeping themselves healthy. And I think I got the right path, because what you see and what they usually teach and what you usually learn in fitness centers, generally in commercial fitness centers, and what you read in most of the books and what is on fashion does not really work for your health. It makes you look good, but you're not healthy. you see many people who are muscular, they look good, wearing a top tank. But then, first of all, well, in a bathing suit is different. You got to have proportions. But the other thing is that you should be as strong and performant as you look, right? Not the opposite. And on the other side, some people who are really strong and performant and don't look good and are overweight, this is also wrong in my opinion. I think that, form and function should go together well. It means that you should look as good as you are, but feel as good as you look. This is my take personally. Of course,
Absolutely.
there's nothing we can do about my face except for plastic surgery, but that's another story.
Well, there we go, listeners. That was the Fabio Zonin episode. Thanks for coming.
I talked a lot.
I love that though, Fabio. That you should look as good as you are and feel as good as you look.
No.
I always say you should. Is it better to look stronger than you are, or be stronger than you look?
I think it's better to be stronger than you look because you get the surprise effect.
Absolutely, because if you look stronger, if you look stronger than you actually are, people expect you to be able to do things, and then are kind of let down when you can't. Yeah, and that's Instagram there for you.
Oh, and by the way, just behind the scenes for those who were not here pre-recording, I warn everyone, hey, I talk a lot. This is no problem. Go. Now they're worried.
What I loved about that story is you basically, there's a few things, but you said you were 20 years in the industry, and you'd done lots of stuff, but all of a sudden there was this whole world open up with things you just didn't know. And you're like, how can I not know that? So this gets you. I mean, now I think it's easier which is why we do this podcast for listeners for their health, because there's so much information out there. It's like, right, we want to give you not like necessarily the right information, but good information, and then at least you can use that and take the bits you need and leave the bits that you don't need or the bits that you're not interested in. But and it's one of those things that, like, when you find a trainer as well, they might be like, right, well, I've trained a few people and that's great. But it's like, yeah, but have you seen a person who looks like this? Have you seen a person who's got this issue and this issue? And the more people you train, the more you realize, and the better you become at training sort of pretty much everyone, right? So, what's my question here? I'm trying to think, because you're obviously always learning, and like you said, you got to the point where you couldn't move, you were in constant pain, but you could still probably turn up to competitions and things and do the thing, but then you'd have to, but you'd do it to the detriment of your own body. So how did you start to come out of that? What was the process? Because I mean, obviously your mindset changed and you said, right, I'm going to learn more and I'm going to do something about it. But where did you begin? What did you start with?
It started by one consideration. In 2006, I mean, I competed in bodybuilding regularly until 1994. Then I quit because I opened my gym. I had my clients, students, and people to take care of, right? And then back in 2006, I just did a comeback. I just, without telling anyone, I took my team. I had 12 athletes. I took them to the nationals of, natural bodybuilding. And when I went there to take them to registration and weigh, I said, I'm also competing. No one knew, not even my team. I went there and I won the overall. I won everything. But here's the interesting part. And then I started asking myself questions, because I said, now I won. Today, the day after this came, today, but because especially after this competition, we went out for a pizza. Finally, I could eat right after 6 months of dieting. And I passed away. Passed out? No, passed away is that dying, right? Passed out is when you just, So I ate and I passed out. I was feeling so bad. And the following day I couldn't move. And my ankles were swelling and so on. And I was in pain. And before, the competition, I was in pain. And I said, now I should represent the perfect body. I mean, I am the Italian national champion currently of bodybuilding, natural, so healthy, no steroids, right? in my category. And I'm supposed, and I'm almost 40, so I'm supposed to represent how a healthy and strong person should be, but I don't feel good. I'm doing something wrong because the shelf looks good, but inside, you know, I had, my wife was not my wife at that, was my girlfriend. Several mornings I had to ask her, can you help me wearing my socks? Because I couldn't reach my feet. My feet were so far away to reach, you know? And I said, and here's the point. It's not only about me, because, you know, athletes that compete, we all know that professional sport or competing sport is not exactly healthy. I mean, sports and health are tied, but when you go to the extreme, it's never healthy. Every sport has some downsides. But I said, I have a gym. Actually, at the time, I had 2 gyms, and I'm coaching people and trying to make their life better. Now I'm using the same systems, just, you know, scaled down, that I'm using for myself. Now, if I am not feeling good and healthy, even though I look so, I'm probably delivering the same message, the same strategies to my students. I'm not doing good for them. I'm making them look good, but not feel good and not feel healthy. There's something wrong. This is how I started exploring around outside. There was something that was not. Does this answer your question, Pete?
Yeah, it's no, that's good because like you say, you're training people. So this will still be happening. So people will train the way they train and be like, I'll look great. So therefore I'm going to train my clients to look like that. Yeah. And it's probably more kind of people saying that. I'm going to generalize here, but probably like younger people in their 20s, say, who want to look like that. I mean, it still happens to guys in their 40s and stuff, but maybe they do it in a different way. But it's kind of like, and we talk a lot about this podcast, and I've been talking a lot about this as well recently, is what does it look like in 20 years time? What does what you do now do for you in 20 years time? Because most of the people who we'll come across aren't professional athletes. They just, you know, they're recreational and just want to feel better, look better, maybe have a club to go to, some friends to make and what have you, and just socialize and get stronger with it. So that'll be the kind of listeners we get. That'll be the people who we're talking to right now. So it's just to kind of be wary of that, because it's people aren't necessarily out there to ruin you and to make you feel bad and to make you ruin your body, basically. You know, but it might be all that they know, and they think, well, you know, it makes me. But that's very interesting what you said. You were walking around, and you should be the epitome. You should be the poster boy for health and how good you can look at 39 and all of that sort of stuff. But you actually couldn't put your socks on.
Yeah,
that's
now
you.
It's different, because now I can. One thing that I always thought that is, and this is part of the ethics of an instructor or any professional. We say in the US they say walk the talk, right? Something like that, or lead by example. I say in Italy we say live according to what you preach.
Yeah.
So there's so many people out there that talk to you about nutrition, diet, or training, and they are completely unfit and unhealthy. And sometimes my question would be, if I could go on the other side of the screen when I see them on TV or YouTube, say, hey, if it works so well, why don't you do it? So there is nothing that not a plan or a nutrition plan or anything I asked one of my students to try that I haven't tried before in my own skin. This is something.
There was a book that I read recently. And it was, I can't remember what book it was. It was the spinach test, something like that. And if you're talking about exactly what you just said about nutrition or whatever, follow that person around the supermarket and see what they've got in their basket. And if it's not full of nutritious stuff, you know, there might be a couple of beers in there or whatever. But if it's not like 90% nutritious stuff, go somewhere else.
That's the point. I mean, if people see me, you know, in any part time of my day or my life, they're gonna see me doing exactly what I tell people to do. So I train according to those principles, and this is something that I believe should be what every instructor should be doing. And so also one thing I was, to be a good instructor, instructor is, it's not like a medical profession, but it's very close to it because you are taking care of other people's health. You have a huge responsibility, even more because a doctor cures someone who's already unhealthy. And most likely might have been a fault. You are preventing people from getting injured or getting unhealthy. Prevention, this is what we basically do. And so knowledge is one thing. To be a good instructor, you need to have knowledge. But there's a second great quality is just as important. You need to care. Your students should not be numbers. You need to care about your students. And how do you show you care? You got to be just like them. I mean, if you believe that you really believe this works, the best way to convince your student to do it is do it yourself and show them you're doing it. That's pretty much the idea. And so this is the responsibility, and this is the ethics we should all take over as professionals. And unfortunately, here's another thing you mentioned before that gathered my interest. You said, young people, they'd like to build their body, and also they go to the gym because they like to make community, see the friends, and so on. It's all super true. There is another problem, as as it happens with nasty disease or anything. You always think that those type of things happen to others, never to you. So when you are young, you have a hard time having a long-term view and looking ahead. I mean, I've been there. I think we've all been there. It means that you think, I'm healthy now. I want to look good now. And yeah, I'm okay. I'll never have a back pain. I'll never have a shoulder joint pain. I'll never have diabetes. I'll never be overweight when you're young. But then suddenly you find yourself there. And this is the main problem. The main problem is that, it's very hard to deliver a message to someone as young, because I don't know if it works in English, but in Italy we say that we learn how to swim only when the water is pretty much up to here. Before that, you have no reason to learn how to swim. If you have a very low pool, you're okay. But when the water gets here, probably you should start learning how to swim. This is the main problem. So the idea, the way I see it, when I deal with young people who don't really care about health, is that if they don't care, I got to have double care. I got to care. I got to take that care for them, which means I need to give them what they ask for, which is look good, look strong, be muscular, big guns. But at the same time, do it in a way that makes sure that in 20 years, I'm meeting their goals, the goals that they will have in 20 years from now. So they'll also be healthy. So I would never sacrifice, function and health for the immediate. So if my student does not have a long-term goal, I need to have a long-term goal for my student. Does that make sense?
That's huge.
Yeah, because
that's huge actually, because a lot of people think they know what they want, but they haven't got the experience, so they don't know, because you've done it, you've been there and done it, so you know what it looks like.
There. I mean, in the past years, I spent some time in trying to convince people, don't do this because one day and they don't care. So you know what? They tell me I want big pecs, I want big chest, I want big guns, and so on. I said, yeah, good. Let's do this. But when I plan my training, right? The training session for them or whatever, when I plan their work, I always take into consideration how they will be in 1 year, 2 year, 5 years, 20 years from now. And if they ask me, but those guys are doing this, I always find the right explanation to explain that whatever I'm asking them to do is related to their goals. But their question, they want answers for today. I want to be so today. They don't care about tomorrow. So you need to be able to give them answers that satisfy them today, while at the same time, you are thinking of tomorrow. I hope, English is not my mother language, so I hope I was able to explain the concept with
that's
almost proper words.
No, that's absolutely fantastic, Fabio. I was just going to ask, with this is kind of interesting. We're moving into this kind of territory now of the way you teach now and the kind of the Strongfirst system, and I know you teach with kind of kettlebells and barbells and body weight, and we've recently obviously experienced you doing the body weight training. You kind of touched on when we were together a few weeks ago, the fact that there's 3 different modalities of training there, and each one has has benefits and has strengths, but doesn't really do everything. And the combination of using all 3 of them can actually give you a kind of a more total kind of program and cover all bases. I mean, we've obviously got people on the listening now who possibly do 1 or 2 or may do all 3 of those things. But would you be able to kind of explain the differences between those 3 modalities and the benefits of each one, just for the listeners?
Yeah, we have 2 curves, 2 descending and ascending curves, or probably lines. Let's start about one thing that one feature of body weight, barbells, and kettlebells: availability. Body weight, you have it at any time, everywhere, wherever you want. You can train in your studio, you can train home, you can train on a plane. I did my push-ups on a plane a couple of times, and because seriously, in pistols. And you can train in a hotel, you can train on a beach, you can train everywhere, right? Then kettlebells, almost. I mean, if you're traveling by plane, you can't bring your kettlebell, but if you're traveling by car, if you want to have kettlebells home, in a small space, are very, very available. Not as much as body weight, but are very available. Barbells, not just as much. Unless you have a space in a home gym, power rack and barbells, you may also work with a barbell without a power rack, but you need equipment and you need space. So you might go to the gym. So availability, the winner is body weight and goes down to barbell, right? Then you have programming. Now this is interesting because the 2 curves are just in the opposite direction. Programming barbell is so easy for one reason. There's no limit of how much you can load on the bar, but also you can really adjust the weight perfectly to your strength, because you can have small plates, I don't consider weights and plates anything below 1.25 kilos, but the rest are just earrings. But with 1.25 kilos, you can have weight jumps of 2.5 kilos, right? So you can really adjust the weight. So it's easy to program and slightly increase the load and so on. So very easy to program barbell and get strong with barbells. Kettlebells, slightly more different, just in between, because you have 2 kilos or 4 kilo jumps. Now it may sound, 2 kilos, what is 2 kilos? Hold on. I mean, for instance, if you go from, let's say, from 12 to 16, you say it's only 4 kilos, but considering 12 to 16, it's a 33% increase in weight. 33% is a lot. So you know about many people who can do like 6 solid reps of press with a 12 kilo belt, but can't put up the 16 for once. So the jump between sizes is big, is huge. And when you start doing ballistics, even more. So programming kettlebells, a little more complicated. And also the ballistics required more skill than the grinds. While barbell, you can learn it really much more. There's a lot of people don't know about behind the barbell, but still is the easiest tool compared to, if compared to kettlebells and body weight. Body weight is the most complicated. First of all, that's your body weight. Yeah, you can play with levers, but still, I mean, if you can do a pull-up, you cannot cut off one leg to be lighter. So programming, much more challenging. And the jump, the difference between 2 different progressions or regressions of the same exercise is huge. So programming is much harder, but also you need much, much, much more body awareness, body control, coordination, and so on. So availability, body weight is the winner. Programming, barbell is the winner. Kettlebells in between, in both. So those are 2 features that make it interesting. Then there is something that has to do with the main postures you use with one type of training and the other. When you go kettlebells, you're pretty much always neutral. When you do your swings, when you do your presses, whatever, you're neutral. So your ears are on top of your shoulders, your shoulders on top of your hips on top of your feet. So your back is neutral. When you work with barbells, if you do it properly, in many situations, you're arched, like the back squat, the bench press, and so on. The deadlift, you're neutral, but you have to arch. You have to arch and you have to do it properly because you have to arch in the T-spine. You have to keep control of your midsection. You can't arch your lumbar. So in any case, you get your posterior X stronger than your anterior X, and your posture is much more open, right? On the other side, when you body weight, you go hollow. So you increase your anterior chain a lot compared to barbells. And well, if you do it properly, you don't get yourself close too much. Hollow is not what many people think, just closing here. It comes from pretty much the cylinder here, the midsection, rather than, you know, closing your chest, but still you tend to go hollow. So there is more anterior chain involvement. So if you only do body weight or calisthenics, at one point your posture may become closer, pretty much like that of a fighter. If you only do barbells, you may end up walking like, you know, huge powerlifters, which mean open chest and just like that. And kettlebells are kind of neutral, but putting the three things together, you can develop your body in a very symmetrical, proportioned, and equal way. And so one type of training kind of clears the other. One thing that I learned from Master Mark Rifkind, he said, oh, he's been a powerlifter, bodybuilder, and also he's been a gymnast. And he always say, don't live in your sports posture. And I think it's very important. You can identify a fighter, you can identify a powerlifter by the way they walk, right? And so the three modalities together, one clears the other. And then there is another thing about, you know, the ability to develop strength and also muscle mass, if you wish, and mobility. For instance, kettlebell are very complete, and you can get really strong in your upper body, and you can get, and your conditioning can go up to the roof. But if you're really strong in your lower limbs, well, the bars you could squat are much heavier than the one you can clean. So for lower body, kettlebells at one point may not be enough. I mean, for my deadlifts and squats, kettlebells are not enough. They're great for the upper body. On the other side, barbells have some limitations. They're all closed chain exercises. You don't build, you know, you don't take care of asymmetries. And you do get stronger, but you don't get that full range of motion you may get with kettlebells. With body weight, very hard to train properly your lower body. You get incredibly strong in your upper body. You can get strong in your lower body, but not as much as barbells. So I think that, and with neither with barbells nor with body weight, you can really do a conditioning. I'm talking about body weight strength training, of course, not, you know, not flows or other stuff. I'm speaking about what we do. So I think that the three together allow you to train yourself, you know, 360 degrees. And when you have them all available, you can use them all. But when you travel or you don't have them all available, you use what you have, and you can train you 360 degrees anyway. I was in Greece on vacation this summer, and when I was where I was, Rhode Island, no gyms around, no nothing. There was a stage where they used to do, you know, the shows in the evening, village stuff. You know, they would do the shows, the musicals, whatever. And on stage, I would go on stage in the early mornings and use the stage places to do the handstands, and then I would use the how do you call it? The stairs to do the pistols and other stuff and dragon flags and so on. And I trained body weight for 2 weeks because I didn't need anything else. So if you have that knowledge, you can train everywhere. Sometimes I go somewhere there's only kettlebells available, and good. Sometimes there's no kettlebells, but there's barbells. So if I have the choice, I use them all. If I don't, I adapt.
So that kind of takes, I suppose, the way you've just explained that leads us on to the importance of having a principle-based system rather than a technique or an equipment-based system. So the way that you train, you utilize the same training principles regardless of the modality or the equipment available. Is that right?
Exactly. I mean, the principle, it's like physiology. Human physiology is the same. I mean, the four of us look totally different. Guess what? We function the same way. It doesn't matter if I wear long hair, you guys wear short hair, someone has a beard, someone doesn't, and we have different body types. Our physiology is the same. So the difference is really slight. And same applies for training. Training is based on body physiology and body biomechanics. We all work and function the same way, and we all respond to the same stimuli, which means that it doesn't matter what tool you use to get strong, you have to do the same things. To build muscles, you have to do the same things. To become more conditioned, you have to do the same things. The tool changes. So there are differences in some techniques as far as for, if I'm using a bell, I want a neutral wrist. If I'm using a barbell, I want a slightly extended wrist, for instance. So slightly different that are related to the shape of the implement. And then there are programming differences that are related to the way you can adjust the training load with different implements. But the principles are just exactly the same, are universal, just as physics. Physics is universal. Do you know anything that does not follow rules of physics in anything that you know? I don't think so. Well, just the same.
Magic.
So that's the way it's huh?
Magic.
Well,
that doesn't follow the rules.
and my cat doesn't follow any rule of physics. I mean, my cat is 21 years old. She's still alive, and she screams like the singer of Halloween. So yeah, everything except my cat.
I was just going to ask Fabio, in terms of your own training, I know we've kind of talked about how you developed and how you maybe met Pavel, and then you went down a kind of a different route than you were on previously. But in more kind of recent times, do you still have training goals yourself? And has your approach to training changed now that you are kind of older? You kind of mentioned that when you're in your 20s, you don't really have a long-term view, but now that you're in your 50s and, you may be looking a decade, 2 decades ahead, has the way that you actually trained and potentially, your diet and things like that and the way you live, have you adapted things with now a more focus on longevity and a more kind of long-term view as you've got older yourself?
Definitely. And I had to hit the wall quite a few times before learning the lesson. It means that I'm not saying I'm not going to compete anymore, because that is going to happen. And just, I did not many know, but I did a bodybuilding competition just probably 3 years ago. I just showed up, and did it. And I did the same with another powerlifting meet. So I'm going to compete, but the approach is different. So first of all, I don't train for a PR. I just let it happen. This is crucial. It doesn't seem very important, but it is. It's like, if I tell you, I give you a training session in which your goal is to improve the number of sets of 10 swings you can do in 10 minutes. And I give you a stopwatch. You will end up watching the stopwatch and trying to rush the clock and build and beat your previous number every time. So the only way I can prevent you from doing so is telling you, okay, just let the clock start, turn it upside down so you can't see it, and just stop whenever it rings. So you have no idea, right? So if you start thinking at our age, and at my age, start thinking, I want to compete there, I want to deadlift 300 kilos, I want to do this, you start pushing. If you train to stay strong and healthy and eventually become stronger, PRs happen. Now, it's interesting because, they say they usually, and it's true, I can tell you, I did lose strength in the past years compared to a few years ago. But incredibly, I did my squat PR, I think it was in January, and at 51 years old. I squatted 240 with no equipment, no belt, no nothing. And that was not expected. So I do train for strength, but I don't push myself over, because everything, see, you have to use your body physiology, not to try to alter it, which means that you may push and back off, but you can't push all the time. So what has changed is that, first of all, the goal is not to win at all costs anymore, because I have no one else to compete against except for myself. Because now the goal has changed. The goal is, now for now, today's goal, if they ask me today, is at 60, I want to be able to do the same exact things I can do today at 50, at 52. This is my goal, because I know that it's unavoidable. You're going to slow down, but the goal is stay there. When I was 20, my goal was next year, I want to be stronger, right? Now, seriously, that can happen. I mean, in May, because by the way, I got a PR at 52. But if I know that if I pushed for it, I would have gotten injured. Because what changes when you age? Your physiology stays the same. The difference, what changes is the time it takes for your body to adapt and the time it takes for your body to recover. So you can be as strong as before, but you can't recover as quick as before, which means that you can't push yourself. Listen to your body. Now, listen to your body should not be taken as an excuse, because many people say, I listen to my body. Today, I don't feel like training, so I don't train. Today, I feel like drinking an extra beer, so I'm drinking extra beer. And today, this is not listening to your body. This is not. You need to have a plan, but you also need to be ready to change the plan if something goes wrong. I plan my training all the time. I keep a strict training diary. I have them all. You see behind there, see this file here? My training diaries of the past 20 years. I have them all. So I plan my training, I follow my training and so on. But what I don't allow myself to do is don't ever miss a training session. If you have to, recover it. Don't ever overdo. Now, believe it or not, if I teach a workshop, it happened the week before I came for the SFB. I done a barbell workshop here in my town. And at one point I demoed the deadlift, and I was explaining how there is a delay when you start pulling the bar and when the bar leaves the ground when it's heavy for you. So I just picked up, a 220 kilo bar and I deadlifted it. I did 3 reps. Now, this is the interesting part. Those 3 reps, I took it off my training for the following week, off the reps I was supposed to do with 220. This is the plan. I'm doing the plan. So I'm not doing anything less than what I plan to do. If I have, I recover it. If I'm having an off day, if I'm not feeling good, then what I do is I leave it for the day, and then I will probably do something more the following week. However, on the other side, I don't allow myself to do anything more that was planned, just because that day I feel immensely strong. Because doing too much, you know what's going to happen. You do a PR today. It was easy. What do you want to do next time? You want to try more. It's easy. What do you want? You want to try more, and then you get injured. I did that mistake several times. So I am proud to say that the last training session I missed, I didn't recover, was August 15, 1996. my wedding, my first wedding with my first wife. I missed that session. All the others, I recovered them. And if I have to travel, like when I come to England and so on, I plan all my training schedules so that nothing is missed. Right? But on the other side, I can say now that I'm proud of never having done an extra rep or put on a bar a weight that was heavier than what was planned. So, and I plan when I'm supposed to try a PR. Or if I try a PR because I really feel strong that day, what I'm doing is I'm taking note of that and always back off. The next step after a peak is always down. 2 choices. go down with your own legs or tumble down. You have an old saying in England, right? There is old things like Jack and Jill went up the hill to fetch a pail of water, something like that, right? So I don't want to go down tumbling from the hill. And so it's more consciousness, basically, and it's just avoid doing stupid things. I picked this from my good friend and colleague, Michael Hartle, which is plan the work, work the plan. A plan, for me, is the way to avoid overdoing. A plan for others may be a way to avoid underdoing, which means if I just go by feel, I'm getting too lazy. If you go by feel, according to your personality, you may end up in two things: underdoing or overdoing. Do the right thing for you. And there are times in which you need to stop and rework your plan and, just do it. And so my training is still includes, I train 4 to 6 times a week. I waive the intensity. I waive the volume. I always do my due diligence for mobility work and all that stuff. But that's the first thing I do in the morning, by the way. Wake up 4:45. At 6, my training partner is here. 5:45 at 6, we're under the weight. And we do that every single day of the week, unless I'm traveling or anything like that. But that's the way it's done. Discipline.
Well, that's absolutely fantastic. I think we've gone just over the hour, Fabio, and I know that is a really interesting take, and I'm sure that people are fascinated to know the last time you missed a training session was it 19?
It's a true story.
1990.
25 years ago.
I did things like I was traveling for 2 weeks. I did like 11 training sessions in a row to catch up, or sometimes when I have long travels, I call or book wherever I go to make sure, find out what I will have available, what days I can train, because it has to be lifestyle. It's just like eating, if you want to stay healthy, it's like eating or drinking or any other thing. It needs to be planned. And, it's different because some people travel once a year. I travel every month. If I don't keep some rules and a healthy lifestyle, we had COVID, but the original plan was being in the UK next week, then being in Greece, then being in Brazil, then being in India, then being in the UK again, then being in Costa Rica, then being in Mexico. If I don't organize everything well, I can't stay healthy. And what I like to say to our listeners, listen, there's no excuses, because if you know the principles and with your body weight, you can train wherever you are, and you don't need to kill yourself and train for hours. But you need to keep rule, same applies for nutrition and all the rest. If you've seen me when I was in the UK, you never seen me drinking, right?
Nope.
You always see me eating healthy. I do drink, but I drink not on a regular basis. I drink when I can. I drink once a week, and I enjoy my beer, my wine, whatever I need to enjoy. But if I'm traveling, and I'm with you guys for 4 days and nights in a row, and all the 4 nights out of 7, I drink 2 or 3 beers, and then I travel to another country and I have to drink. That's not going to work. So I do enjoy life, but I don't overdo. Right? And that's the way to do it. There's nothing to do. The more you age, the less freedom of action you have to keep yourself healthy. Less bandwidth.
I think that's probably a good 10-minute section we should take out and stick as a standalone YouTube section, because in the end, if you don't do these things, you just don't get the result. And a lot of people, they want the result, but there's a huge kind of mechanism, decision making that you have to have in place in order to keep this kind of progress in this lifestyle. Is you have to have made a decision to attend to the things that you want to achieve, and I think most people make a decision not to. And it's not because they are busy. It's not because they have children. It's not because they have a social life. It's not because they have injuries. It's not because of anything. Well, they travel. It's because they choose not to do it, and that's a tough thing to hear. And as a personal trainer, you've got to go on that that kind of fine line between basically saying, well, actually it's your fault, to saying, actually, well, okay, given this, you can actually choose, you can actually make decisions, you can empower yourself. And I tend to err on the side of, well, actually, let's just think about this in terms of empowerment rather than your fault. You know, at the moment, you just didn't realize you were empowered. And if you really want this, then let's empower you to do it. And then obviously they've got to make a decision to do it once they've been empowered.
Yeah, and results, it's hard at the beginning, but then results will give you the drive to keep going. You know, one heroic act does not turn you into a hero. You need to be a hero all the time. You need to live like a hero, right? So just to give a comparison, the idea is do a little bit at a time, but do it constantly. To have results and keep the results, you need to have, consistency, you know, commitment and patience. Those are the three things. You don't get fit in 3 days. You know, what you are now is the result of what you've been doing and eating in the past 10 years of your life.
Yep.
It will not take 6 weeks of crash diet to change that. It'll take quite some time. And but then the interesting part is when you got momentum, it's really easy to maintain it. So this week I had my 2 days with low carbs, then my 1 day with high carbs, 2 days with low carbs, and Saturday I'm having a Mexican meal, and I will eat a lot and drink a lot of beer, and it's going to be fun. But then I will enjoy it even more than if I just partied every single evening, right? But I will not feel miserable the following days. And every morning I feel strong, I feel healthy, I feel well. And again, you know, traveling is not an excuse. I say, if I can do it, you know, I told you the body weight at the time, first thing I said, guys, if I can do body weight, I'm built for everything but body weight. If I can do body weight, everybody can do it. Yeah. Because if you look at my body structure, it's built for not being good at body weight stuff. I'm built to be good at barbell stuff, right? So same thing, if the type of lifestyle I have, which is usually out of COVID condition, is being traveling on an average 3-4 days out of 7 every week. If I can train every day constantly 4 or 5 times a week, and I can stick to good nutrition, keep myself healthy, everybody can do it. There's no excuses.
Absolutely, that's brilliant, right? So in podcast land, I've just been putting the Harinder episode together, which will go out this Friday, but this is in 2 weeks' time. So this is a time vortex here. But Harinder was talking about knowing your enemy and how people know what to do, and they know they need to eat well, and they know they need to do it consistently over time. What they don't know, or what they don't acknowledge, is they're gonna get in their own way. They're gonna make an excuse, like we were talking about people making they're gonna make an excuse somewhere down the line and say, I can't do it because, and it'll be roughly the same thing all the time. And I've spoke about this when you're setting goals before. You've got to identify what your biggest obstacle is going to be. And that is what you need to deal with first, rather than setting a goal and saying, I'm going to start going to the gym. So you've just explained there, travel is kind of your biggest enemy, because that's going to derail you. Like you said, if you have beers wherever you go and all that. So you've identified that and you said, right, how do I overcome that? What does it look like to overcome that? And you're like, I'm just not going to do it. Yeah. I'm going to travel, but I'm not going to do the thing. And that's brilliant.
I don't know if you noticed, but when we had meals at the body weight, I had my tuna fish and canned meat stuff. So my bag, my luggage was full of, corn cakes, rice cakes, and stuff I could eat. Not because I was planning on eating them, but they were just in case. If I don't find a proper meal that is good for me, and also it's responsibility. I mean, I was supposed to show you guys how to go, upside down on handstands, and how to do pull-ups, and how to do several things. I could not be heavy or not feeling good or anything like that, because I was in the center of attention, right? So
I can vouch for that as well, because I had when we were doing the headstand on the last day, I'd had a cannoli for lunch because they looked really nice in that Italian round the corner, and I couldn't do a headstand because it kept creeping.
Yeah, that's the problem.
I can do one now. I thought I'm never going to be able to get this. I can do one now, but I couldn't do it on the day because I'd just eaten a cannoli.
Yeah, but you see, that's the point. It's if you attended the body weight and you found your instructor who's not living by the message he's providing, would I have been reliable to you? Would you have trusted me? Exactly. You trust me because you see, hey, that guy's doing what he's teaching us. That's the idea. It's a huge responsibility for us in our industry, in our profession.
I think one of the things
isn't the main rule of being a personal trainer to demonstrate everything with the lightest way possible. I mean, that's sometimes that's my rule. It depends how much sleep I've had, but
first you know how to do it, then you can teach it, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I think one of the things, obviously, the last sort of few minutes we've been talking about is one of the things comes to my mind is the Jocko, discipline equals freedom. So you actually set yourself up with sort of disciplines and a structure and a plan, and then if you live a disciplined life, you then have the freedom to do the things. Like you said, you're going to have this Mexican feast at the weekend and beers, but you've been disciplined 90% of the time, and then when you have that freedom, you'll really enjoy it. Rather, if you're just the whole time, I eat what I want, I drink what I want, I don't train, you don't appreciate those things, and you don't really enjoy them as much as if it's an occasional treat.
Yeah, but and also some people argue with me saying, yeah, but you're not living your life because you're taking away so many things from your. Yeah, it depends. Everything has a cost. Like you want to buy an apple, cost £1, you give them £1 for, right? So here's the point. But the way you feel when you're healthy, and this is one point. Many people are not healthy. They don't know because they don't know how it feels to feel healthy because they've never been healthy. So you give up some things, and you start feeling better. You don't want to go back to those things anymore. You want to feel good. So you want to enjoy them, but you want to stay in your status in which you feel good. And so it is not giving up the freedom of life. It's choosing, because in our life, we're always in front of crossroads. You got to make a choice. So because everybody I would love to be able to drink beer every evening and have the 6-pack. But guess what? Beer, 6-pack. Which one do I want? I have nothing against those who choose the beer. I respect them 100%, as long as they respect me that I choose the 6-pack. Does it make sense? Or even good blood work, good blood test, So again, it's a choice. And what we should avoid is get to the point in which we have no more choice. I love the idea of being able to say, I can choose whether I want to have a week of beer and junk food for 1 week, or I want to have a week of healthy food and training, because I can choose that. But if you don't take care of yourself, at one point, guess what? You have no choice. You would like to go for beer, junk food, and you can't because you have diabetes, because you're obese, because you had a heart attack, or several things. So being moderate and have enough discipline for most of your life allows you to have choices for your entire life. Being undisciplined at one point will give you no choices. And then your life might be miserable because you will have to eat healthy and do something, not because you chose to, but because you have no other option to survive. I wouldn't get there. I prefer to be able to choose. I hope I'll be able to choose until my last day on earth. I hope.
I think that is an absolutely fantastic place to kind of start to wrap up there, Fabio. Yeah, that is just brilliant. We've had that was a great kind of hour and 20 minutes, hour and 15 of conversation with you. And it's kind of not gone exactly the way I thought it was going to go. It's kind of, we've taken a few turns and we've moved, but I think it's hugely valuable for certainly for myself, and I'm sure for the listeners as well. Pete, do you have any final sort of thoughts or any things you'd like to say?
Again, I've got honestly, this happens every episode, doesn't it? I've got loads written down and stuff. But what Fabio has just talked about there is, this might sound a bit harsh, right? But it's all said in good fun, right? But when he says, like, people who choose the beer over the 6-pack, right? Going to the examples, you can have a 6-pack, or you can drink and eat and all of that. That's all fine if you want to do that. But if you haven't got the 6-pack abs, if you don't moan about, if you moan about wanting the 6-pack abs, no sympathy. It's exactly the same as me, right? I whinge when it's too hot. People go on about English people, British people. You complain when it's too hot, right? I do because I don't like the heat, but I don't complain when it's too cold. So I'm allowed to do that. It's the same thing. So there you go. Take that.
Mr. Paul Bassett, do you have any final thoughts or anything you'd like to say?
No, I like the way this conversation went, particularly at the end. This idea of this personal responsibility and this planning to succeed. I mean, I did have a lady say she lost a couple of kilos in the course of a couple of weeks following a plan that we were doing, and at the end of it, I was like, "How are you doing?" And she said to me, "So do I have to be vigilant for the rest of my life?" Because this was a very overweight individual. And I said, well, yeah, kind of. You know, you just got to keep thinking, and it gets easier to do it the more you practice it, the more you attend to those skill sets. I mean, for you, Fabio, you must now probably go into automatic pilot. You know what your bag looks like. You know where you put it before you leave the door. You always double check that you've got food in there or whatever you need to bring. You think ahead. You probably go back to the same hotel if it's been a good one. You'll get into a rhythm, and I always say to my clients, it's very rare that you're going to come across a week that throws you completely. You know, even people I've got who work in like A&E, they kind of know a lot because they're experienced. There's nothing, I mean, they may be thrown by certain kind of things that come in through the door, but they probably know when they're going to start roughly, or they know that if they're not going to finish on time, that it's happened enough for them to be familiar with it. So it's very rare. It's not like it's like overnight apocalypse and we don't know what's going to happen. So it's like the reason they're not doing it is because they're just choosing not to plan. And I understand why, because it's probably tired and willpower is finite. But if you don't do that due diligence, if you don't plan, if you don't invest at some point, it's no wonder you're going to get caught out. And as Fabio's just demonstrated, if you're kind of a living example of someone who's maintained it because you've just constantly nurtured it to the point now where you probably can't imagine doing anything else. It'd probably be very uncomfortable to be the person that chose beer over the 6-pack. It would probably actually be a harder thing for you to do than what you're currently doing.
Oh no, I enjoy that when it's time. This is a good thing. I'm not, unlike others who this is also a mistake, getting maniac about something. If I have to eat and drink, I eat and drink, and I don't feel guilty the next day, I eat and drink. And someone, you can ask Claire, she knows me very well. When I eat, I eat. I surprise everyone how fast and how much I eat and how much I drink when I do it, because I chose to. And since I chose to, I don't feel guilty because it was a choice, right? It was not dictated by, a binge attack or anything. I chose this tonight, I'm eating and drinking.
Rinder said that as well. He said, when people say, if you've made a conscious choice, that's fine. But he said, people say like, I chose to brush my teeth this morning. No, you didn't. It was a habit. I chose to go to work. No, you didn't. It was a habit. So if you're drinking every day or like a couple of times a week or whatever, it can become a habit. So that's exactly what you just said there. You made the choice. It's not habitual. You made a choice. And therefore you've done it. You don't feel guilty, and then you move on. And I love that. That's great.
Exactly.
Fabio, if people want to, I know you're not kind of like massively on social media and things from what I see, but if people do want to kind of, find out more about you or keep an eye on what you're doing and the kind of things that you do with your training, what's the best way for people to?
A lot of stuff, when I publish articles, you go on strongfirst.com. But I got my Instagram channel, which is x5_69. And if you just type Fabio Zonin, you'll find me there. Actually, I'm not the one who posts there. I got a guy who posts, but I just give him the stuff to post just because I'm fairly blind now and I'm not good at social media stuff. And Facebook, I got my professional page there. So people can reach me out. And even if they want to email me, it's contact@fabiozonin.com. I respond to all emails. Sometimes it takes me 4 or 5 days. I'm traveling, but I respond to all. So that's what I do. I don't I'm not too much, on social media just because, well, I don't have time to. I study.
No, that's fantastic. And obviously, if anyone is interested in Strongfirst and that sort of thing in the UK, we're very, very lucky. Fabio does. I mean, he's come over a lot recently because of the recent situation. I think he would have been here in September, October, November. But if you are involved in Strongfirst, you get involved in Strongfirst, you'll definitely get to meet Fabio at some stage in the UK or Europe. So just want to say thank you very much to Mr. Peter Lance.
Thank you. Thank you. Nice to see you again, Fabio.
Nice to see you. Will you be in the show next week?
I'm not, unfortunately.
No, I'm only seeing James.
No.
Okay.
See me.
I'll be missing you, Pete.
I'm sure you will.
Thank you very much, Mr. Paul Bassett.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Good. And thank you so much, Fabio, for your time and your generosity and your wisdom. And just finally, if you do like this podcast, please like, share, subscribe. If you're listening on a platform that allows you to leave a review, please leave a review as well. And we will be back. And you can also, tap us up to get into the Facebook group. Just search in groups, Health Oddity, and you'll find us in there. And you can join that, and we'll let you in to the group to chat with us and other guests and other people interested in increasing their health, their fitness, their strength, and their longevity. We'll be back next week with episode 59. Thank you, guys. See you later.
Thank you, James. Thank you.
You've been listening to Health Odyssey with Peter Lant, Paul Bassett, and James St. Pierre. To get your regular fix of hype-free health, you can subscribe and leave a review wherever you get your favorite podcasts. You can find out more on today's and other topics at healthodyssey.com or find us on Facebook or Instagram by searching for Health Oddity.